In our previous class, we have discussed about different types of skeleton in organisms. We have seen exoskeleton, endoskeleton, and examples for exoskeleton like snail, crab, etc. And we have discussed about organisms with endoskeleton. At the end of today's video, you will be able to describe endoskeleton in human beings. Let's move to the topic. As we know, we have a good skeleton system inside our body, and that is endoskeleton. This endoskeleton is giving support and shape to our body. Without the skeleton, human body will be just like a jelly. Maybe you have seen jelly or slime, right? So if there is no skeleton, our body will be like that, or like a jellyfish body. So you have to guess how the human skeleton is. There is a diagram given in your textbook. You have to guess and draw the human skeleton in your body. It is in textbook page number 127. So you can see human skeleton. This human skeleton is having some important parts. Maybe you all know some body parts, isn't it? Head, neck, knee, elbow, thighs, like that. Different body parts are there. For each body part, there is skeleton. For example, in our head, there is skull. The name of the bones in our head is known as skull. The skull is having two parts. One is not movable, other part is movable, which is our jaw bones, which are very strong. The strongest bone in our body is our jaw bones. And we can move our jaw bones. If you are not able to move these jaw bones, we won't be able to talk or chew. So that is the only bone which is movable, which can mobilize, which can move in our head. Other part, which is skull, is protecting our brain, and our head it is protecting. Okay. After that, when we come down, there is vertebrae in our back. Backbone is there. Vertebral column will be there. That helps us to stay straight. If there is any damage to our vertebral column, our body shape will change. So, and any serious damage to vertebral column may lead to paralysis also. Maybe you have noticed some people are not able to stand up and walk after an accident or something if there is any damage to the vertebral column or backbone. Next is our rib cage. Here our chest area is covered with rib cage. As the name says, it works as a cage-like structure you can see. Inside the rib cage, our lungs and heart is protected. So this rib cage is protecting our lungs and heart. Next is bones in our hand, which helps us to hold things and take things tightly. If there is no bone, we won't be able to take objects. So this bones in our hand is helping us. And next is bones in our legs. Bones in the leg is helping us to stand, walk, sit, for everything, isn't it? So there are different bones in our body. There is skull, vertebral column, rib cage, bones in hand, bones in legs, everything is there. You have to complete the table by writing the characteristics and uses of these types of bones. So there's a table given. As I said, I have mentioned some of the uses. So by finding the uses of these bones, you have to complete the table. So as I said, the skull protects the brain. Jawbone is movable in skull. Vertebral column helps us to stay straight. If any damage to vertebral column, it may lead to paralysis. And ribs cover and protect our lungs and heart. And we have hand bones in our hand and in our legs also. Thigh bones are the longest bones in our body, and stapes, which is seen inside our ears, is the smallest one, stapes. Okay, so these are the bones. And when we are sitting and walking, we have to keep our body posture properly. Otherwise, you can observe some people may have small bending in their vertebral column or backbone. There will be small bending, or body shape is changing, or back pain will be there for some people. It's mainly because they are not keeping proper posture when they are doing activities. When you're sitting in your classroom or in a chair or in a desk or wherever you're sitting, you have to keep proper posture. You have to keep your vertebral column straight. Then if you're lying down and if you are walking or if you're lifting some things, you have to keep your body posture properly, otherwise it may damage your vertebral column and your bone structure. Especially in your age, it's very important to keep your body posture properly because you are growing up. If the growth of the body and bones are not proper, it may affect your future body shape also. So keep proper posture when you are doing activities. There are different bones in our body. In between the bones, there are joints. Different types of joints are there. These joints are helping us in movement, and it is helping us to do many activities like walking, lifting things. Like this movement of the joints, here you can see both joints will be there. In our fingers there are joints, in our neck and in elbow, knee, everywhere we can see joints are there. So these joints are connecting between the bones. This is the connection between the bones. And these joints are helping us to move and do activities. Let's see some of the joints in our body. First one, ball and socket joint. And the body part is shoulder joint and hip joint. So ball and socket joint is seen in shoulder joint and in hip joint, in our hips. Characteristics of ball and socket joint is it is freely movable. The ball of one bone rotates in the socket of the other bone. So there will be ball and there will be another socket. So this ball is movable inside the socket. Next is hinge joint, which we can see in our elbow and knee. Like a hinge can be moved only in one direction. You can see hinges in doors and windows. Isn't the hinges are seen? So this works as a hinge joint. It is seen in elbow and knee. Next is pivot joint. It is seen in neck. It is a part where the skull and the anterior part of the vertebral column joins. In neck we can see pivot joint. A bone turns in opposite direction at an axis in the same plane. That's the characteristics of pivot joint. It's a bone which turns in opposite directions at an axis in the same plane. So we can make some models also of, we can make models of hinge joint, ball and socket joint and pivot joint by using different objects. Okay. So these joints are helping us to do the activities. Okay. So study the name of the joints and their characteristics. Okay. So these are the main things we have discussed in our today's topic. Skeleton system, skull, vertebral column, our bones in our hands and knees and everything, and different types of joints. Okay. Watch the video repeatedly, read the textbook and study the names of the bones and their characteristics properly. We'll discuss more in our live class. Thank you.
Human skeleton. In this module, you will learn about the human skeleton. You often feel something hard when you touch your arm, your leg, and even your head. Do you know what this hard substance inside the body is? Well, this hard substance is a bone. A human body is made of a number of bones. Together, these bones form a framework that gives shape to our body. This framework is the skeleton. A body without a skeleton will appear like a jelly that has no shape of its own. Not only does the skeleton give shape and support, it also helps in the movement of various parts of the body. Now that we know the importance of the skeleton, let us look at some of the parts of the skeleton. The skeleton comprises four main parts: the skull, the backbone, the rib cage, and the limbs. Let us first learn about the skull. The skull is made of bones of the head and the face. All the bones of the skull are immovable except the jaw. There are depressions or holes in the skull for eyes and nose. The function of the skull is to protect an important organ of the body, which is the brain. The next part of the skeleton is the rib cage. The rib cage is the bony structure present in the chest area. You can easily feel it each time you keep your hand on your chest. The ribs are curvy in shape. There are 12 pairs of ribs present in a human being. The ribs are joined to the backbone on the back and the breastbone in the front. The rib cage protects many important internal organs such as heart and lungs. The next part of the skeleton is the backbone. It is also known as the spine. The spine helps you bend down to pick up things or to tie your shoelaces. It runs from the back of the skull to the lower back of the body. The spine is made of 33 small bones called vertebrae. These small bones are joined to each other. It is this bone by which the rib cage is attached. The limbs constitute the last part of the skeleton. They are forelimbs and hind limbs. The bones of the arm form the forelimbs. 3 bones, 1 long bone in the upper arm and 2 small bones in the lower arm make the forelimbs. The bone of the upper arm is attached to the vertebra by the collarbone and the shoulder blade. Similarly, 3 bones in the leg together form the hind limb. These are 1 bone in the upper leg or the thigh and 2 bones in the lower leg. The legs are supported by the pelvic bone. All these together make up the skeleton system. Let's recap. The skeleton is a framework of bones that gives shape and support to the body. There are 4 parts of a skeleton. These are skull, ribs, spine and limbs. The skull is made of bones of the head and the face. The skull protects the brain from any damage. Rib cage is the bony structure present in the chest area. The ribs protect the internal organs like stomach and lungs. The spine runs from the back of the head to the lower back and helps in making the body flexible.